What is more horrific? Unleashing a race of demons on an innocent planet and forcing it into a gruesome war? The use of chemical agents to purge an entire tribe from their homelands? Or the sacrifice of one's own daughter to create a monstrosity in her place? Well, Gishi Noelia has done them all and many more. You're probably wondering then why I'm calling this Yu-Gi-Oh card and its associated archetype the most tormented out of Duel Terminal storyline. One that saw the corruption of Winda, the denigration of Gem Knight Crystal, the abuse and tragedy of Genex Controller and his beloved Spare. That's because of what forced Noelia to do these things and what happened thereafter. And in order to explain these events, we'll have to start at the beginning. Duel Terminal 1. Duel Terminal, as some of you may know, was a planet enslaved to eternal conflict. On its surface, 4 tribes struggled against one another for dominance: the X-Sabers, the Mist Valley, the Flamvell, and the Ice Barrier. Noelia was born to the 4th, a group of individuals who held the power of 3 legendary dragons. You've probably heard of them already. Their names are Brionek, Gungnir, and Trishula. Alongside her dear childhood friend Natalia, Noelia would grow to become a key member of the Ice Barrier's hierarchy. We can see a grown-up version of her in Revealer of the Ice Barrier, while Natalia in Chug of the Ice Barrier. The meaning of these 2 titles might provide some insight into the tribe's culture. Revealers appear to have jurisdiction over the mirrors of the Ice Barrier, artifacts linked to and presumably responsible for summoning the dragons. Chuggies, on the other hand, likely operate as they do in our world, playing a vital role in the Ice Barrier's legal system. We won't go further into the matter because these details aren't essential to Noelia's story. Now, as Noelia approached adulthood, the 4 tribes' conflict would be interrupted by a massive invasion of extraterrestrial beings called the Worms. These disgusting creatures had one sole purpose: to conquer new worlds and assimilate them into Worm Zero, a sentient mass of flesh. Recognizing the threat encroaching on them, the 4 tribes entered a momentary truce and worked together to disperse the assailants. The Ice Barrier tribe in particular would be pressured to release their dragons, whose tremendous power might shift the tides of the battle. Naturally, this caused a ton of discourse among the group. If you weren't aware, the 3 dragons were sealed in ancient times due to their chaotic and unpredictable nature. It's likely they were responsible for creating the frigid wasteland that the Ice Barrier now inhabited. Unleashing them could spell disastrous consequences no one could anticipate. Yet, the severity of the situation made this option tempting. Noelia and Natalia, realizing the dire situation they were in, sought out alternative means to help their people. By reading their tribe's ancient scriptures, they discovered the existence of the Steel Swarm, an old race of demons. Similarly to the Ice Barrier dragons, the Steel Swarm had been sealed away in ancient times by the Vylons due to their overwhelming malice and ability to corrupt the minds of their victims. Now, I don't know about you all, but when I hear a description like that, I'm staying away. For these 2, however, they felt it might be possible to harness and control the demon's abilities. So, using one of the mirrors of the Ice Barrier, they performed a summoning ritual in secret. As you can probably predict, since we're only a third of the way through the video, things didn't end well. Though Noelia and Natalia had good intentions, the 2 would ultimately fail in their efforts. The reason for why is unclear. Perhaps Noelia wasn't as experienced with summoning rituals as she had hoped, or maybe the demon's powers were too strong for her and Natalia to contain on their own. No matter the cause, the ritual went awry, resulting in the death of Natalia. The Steel Swarm fortunately were not unleashed on the world then, but their brief recurrence gave them enough time to infiltrate Noelia's mind. The effects of this were seemingly not immediate, as for the rest of Duel Terminal 1's story, Noelia appeared stable. The war with the Worms and a follow-up dispute with the Fabled would eventually conclude thanks to her help. Noelia would adopt Natalia's son, Avance, and an orphan, Ariel, amidst a recovering world and work to rebuild the Ice Barrier's home. But the Steel Swarm's influence would begin to fester like a tumor inside her and would come to fruition soon enough. Duel Terminal 2 begins about a decade after the war against the Worms and the Fabled. The tribes had been humbled by their alliance and were able to put aside their petty disputes for the time being. Unbeknownst to them, however, Noelia's mind had deteriorated. Her personality became more spiteful, more sinister, and she was beckoned by the Steel Swarms. This caused her to leave the Ice Barriers and form the Gishi alongside Avance, Ariel, and her new daughter, Amelia. Though this society on the surface seemed like a harmless spin-off to the Ice Barriers, Noelia actually intended for its people to harness their predecessors' forbidden arts and finally liberate the Steel Swarm from their cage. I think it's safe to say that not every member of the Gishi was aware of this. I see no instance, for example, where Avance could have agreed to Noelia's demands had he known she was trying to free the very things that killed his mother. She likely hid the truth from them. It's safe to assume others were treated the same. Back to the point though, the Steel Swarm were sealed below the Shrine of the Mist Valley. This structure was managed by the Gusto, who had been founded out of the Mist Valley tribe after their numbers were diminished against the Fabled. Noelia, without hesitation, led a full-on invasion of the area, employing poisonous gas to bring about their genocide. The Gem Knights would quickly arbitrate amidst these horrors. Yet, despite them being able to dispel the gas and save parts of the Gusto clan, they would not be able to stop Noelia from freeing the Steel Swarm. The demon's reemergence would mark the coming of another war in Dual Terminal Saga. Now, while the Steel Swarm were wreaking havoc across the planet, Noelia returned to the Geishki's encampment and leaned harder into the forbidden arts. Although the demon's spell was draining her of her identity, she was still traumatized by Natalia's death and desperately wanted to revive her friend. This led to many cruel experiments that are likely the cause of the animalistic appearances of many Geishki members. I know that there's nothing disproving that these anthropomorphic sea creatures were already a pre-existing species in Dual Terminal. You could argue they just so happened to assimilate into the Geishki after its establishment. Though, given some of the incidents I'm about to describe, I feel like the former is more valid. And if we take my theory as canon for the sake of this video, we can speculate that some of Noelia's experiments were voluntary. Ariel, for example, appeared to be loyal to the Geishki and willingly became Mind August and Neremonis for their cause. The same cannot be said of others, however. The most vile of these experiments would be that which Noelia conducted on Amelia. Though the name of the specific ritual is unclear, the Dual Terminal Master Guide details a Geishki ritual that can separate the soul of an individual from their body. These two halves can then be molded into whatever they need to be, whether another soldier to an army or a fallen friend for the depressed. Noelia, her corruption reaching the point of no return, would stop at nothing to bring back her friend. And so, her daughter became the victim of her practices, as brutally seen in Aquamirror Illusion. This experiment, by some greater irony, ultimately failed to produce Natalia like the summoning ritual that accidentally caused her death. Instead, it mutilated Emilia's body into the horrendous Eevee Geishki Gust Kraken, while the poor girl's soul was left to wander Dual Terminal aimlessly. This is the reason why, by the way, Geishki Amelia is a spirit monster. At some point after this tragedy, the Geishki would be directly confronted for their crimes and Noelia fatally wounded. This would spark two major events for the archetype, the first of which entails Avance's reaction to Amelia's death. The boy would take it upon himself to revive Amelia using a stashed away Geishki photo mirror. Yet he would fail due to his emotions interfering with the ritual and would devolve into Geishki Levi Anima. Streaks of the girl's hair are lodged into the creature's head, as if a cruel choke of Avance's noble goals. As for the second major event, the Steel Swarm, utilizing some of the Geishki's powers, would bring Noelia back from the edge, albeit in an ungodly state. Noelia had become Geishki Cyclone. Her old self ceased to exist, her body now just a vessel for the demons that fed off of her. This is most notable via Cyclone being the only fiend ritual monster in the entire Geishki archetype, the same type as the Steel Swarm. We can also see the Steel Swarm crest engraved on its chest. Cyclone would lash out at everyone and everything indiscriminately, now a brute of pure rage and anguish. Still in possession of Noelia's memories, it would be able to call upon the forbidden arts to reanimate the fallen Steel Swarm Hercules as the formidable Geishki Zielgigas. Together, Cyclone and Zielgigas would prove to be some of Dual Terminal's most fearsome enemies up until this point. None of the tribes would be able to stop them on their own, having been weakened by the continual fighting. They wouldn't even be able to rely on the Vylons who had been turned by the demons at this point. When all hope seemed lost, the Constellars, the creators of the Vylon and the equivalent of Dual Terminal's angels, descended from their otherworldly dimension to intervene. Constellar Pollux, in particular, would end up sacrificing himself not only to stop Cyclone, but to miraculously free Noelia from the Steel Swarm's grasp. As she came back to her senses, Noelia could only feel remorse as the world around her crumbled. Even if she had been influenced by the demons, she was still responsible for unleashing them. It was by her own hand that war was brought back to her beloved planet after she had tried so hard to stop it. That thousands of people were lost in the process, including her innocent daughter. Noelia could only repent for her actions and would do so with her own life. She worked to first free Avance from his mutated state. Then, in a ritual opposite to the one that had split the girl in the first place, Noelia offered her own life force to bring Amelia back to the mortal world. Zielgigas would try to intervene out of revenge for the clear betrayal unfolding before it. Noelia, without hesitation, threw herself in front of the behemoth and put an end to it amidst her children. I can only imagine that, as she faded away, she felt even the slightest relief that, for once in her life, she was able to do something right. It is uncertain if Avance and Natalia would ever forgive Noelia for the various horrors she had subjected them to. They would immediately rejoin combat, fending off the remaining Steel Swarm, the evil swarm that followed them, and even the goddess of rebirth, Sophia. Regardless of the matter, the two would at least live on to tell the tale of their mother and to prevent such a twisted fate from happening to anyone in the future. I hope you all enjoyed hearing about Noelia and the Gishki story. It's one that, to me, is rather simple to comprehend since it isn't filled with super deep themes or unexpected twists. Nonetheless, the tale is still worth learning about, and I'm thankful you chose to watch this video to do so. If you adored what I had to say, remember to like the video and subscribe. I'll definitely be doing more voiceovers for Yu-Gi-Oh's many stories in the future, as I have already done in the past. In the meantime, I do have some silent videos covering smaller tales from the game on my channel if you prefer that type of stuff. There's a Patreon link below if you wish to support me, also a Discord link if you seek to chat about all things Yu-Gi-Oh! Otherwise, I hope you have a good night.